I recently did a talk at IT Nation where I spoke through how MSPs and IT service providers can create their marketing growth engine for this year. Now, after the talk, I had a couple of people reach out and ask for the slides, but I thought rather than do that, I'll just record the screen share and just show you guys what the presentation included, which we'll jump into right now. Welcome to the penultimate session, where we're going to be going through how you can build your MSP marketing growth engine in 2025. Now, for this session today, I only really have one objective, and that objective is that you can go away and you can implement the things that we've spoken about and literally go and put them to work tomorrow to make your marketing for your tech or your MSP business more effective. Now, to do that, I can't talk that much about strategies or like hypotheticals from a very top level, but instead I'm going to talk about really actionable tactics and data that we've done from tests from the last 7 years working with loads of technology and IT service businesses. So let's jump straight into it. Before I do, I want to talk about, something quite hard to hear, but I want to talk about the truth about MSP marketing. And I don't want you to be mad at me because I'm one of you guys. We're all on the same side here, but we need to address the elephant in the room and the truth. And when someone comes to buy a managed service provider product, what are they actually buying? And I'll get on to why this isn't a bad thing either. It may seem like it's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing, and I'll get on to why later on. When you buy an MSP service, you are buying something which in the industry we like to call a grudge purchase. Now, I didn't want to be the one to break this to you if you didn't already know this, so I decided to ask AI, and then AI could tell you, and it confirmed, unfortunately, it is a grudge purchase. So if you've got an issue with it, make sure you write to Sam Altman, because I'm just the messenger here, really. So what does a grudge purchase mean, for those of you who haven't come across this term before? And a grudge purchase is something that is not necessarily a desire, it's a need, it's a necessity in most cases. So it's not aspirational, it's maintaining status quo, which is one of the big areas. The next one is it has invisible value, so the best you can be is how you are now. Unless you're currently in like a DDoS attack, then you probably could be in a slightly better situation. Obviously, it costs money, so it's not free just to stay and maintain status quo. And obviously, a lack of immediate or even visible ROI over the long term, even though we know it's there. And just to rub salt in the wounds, grudge purchases fall under this category. So other things as well as IT services can be things like commercial cleaning services, compliance, something or other, and other what people would call boring industries. And that is in the contrast of other things which people would in the B2B world consider not boring. Things like, shiny new software, shiny new hardware like computers, marketing agencies. I might be biased because we run one, but there we go. And things like company lunches, like Deliveroo. So the way you market one and the way you market the other, they have some similarities, but fundamentally when it comes to some parts of marketing that I want to run through today, it's very different. And we can really take advantage of this throughout the process. Get on to the good news now. So the bad news is grudge purchase. Good news is we absolutely love grudge businesses, boring businesses, whatever it may be. And so much so we've created a business out of it. So my name's Ben. I'm the founder of Session Media. We're a B2B performance marketing agency. We've worked with over 100 plus boring or grudge B2B businesses over the past coming up to 7 odd years now since running Session Media and starting Session Media. That includes companies, for example, like ConnectWise, not calling ConnectWise a boring business because this is their conference. But we understand the MSP space from working with them, obviously from a supplier perspective. But not only that, we have worked with IT service providers like Telefonica, for example, and their like UK and Europe-based rollout, and the likes of much smaller IT service providers across different industries and locations that they're targeting, as well as things like data centers, so startup data centers through to data centers that have been acquired by some of the biggest players around Europe, vertical specific hosted desktop providers, as well as things like DevOps and other consultancy and tech brands as well. So from seeing behind the marketing of all of these companies has given us a lot of data points, and we've kind of seen how the sausage is made as well as help them make the sausage, if that's the term. So let's jump straight into what we're going to go through today, and we're going to split today into 4 main parts. We're going to start off by talking about capturing demand, so performance marketing, people who are looking for what it is you guys offer right now. So we're going to go through like search engine marketing, what your stepping stone offer is and how you can craft that, as well as conversion rate optimization. So everyone coming to your site, how can you make sure you get as many people to fill out the form as possible, as well as looking at demand gen. So people that may not necessarily know they have a demand, but then you can get in front of them at the right period of time or the right place at the right time to be able to push them towards that. And we go through something called, well, paid social obviously, but something called the fresh start effect, as well as using event-based emotion and heuristics. And I use the word heuristics just to sound clever in full transparency. Next, we're going to go on how you can put it all together, and if I was going away and implementing a plan tomorrow, what it would look like. And then we're going to give away some of the landing pages and assets that we go through right at the end, just to keep you guys sort of like hostage throughout the presentation so you don't leave before then. I am joking. I mean, I think this will be online. This will be live when I think right now. So you could leave now and still get the assets, but don't, please. So first off, I want to start with paid search or just search engine marketing in general. For those of you who do that, you guys know that it's expensive. And it is expensive for a reason. And that reason is that it works, because it's the only tool where you can get a marketing message at the point in time of a sales query. Someone's looking for something. If you can appear in front of them at that point in time, it's valuable real estate. And obviously the cost is market led, so you're only bidding as much as everyone else would be willing to bid for this term. But over the years, obviously it's become the go-to, so it becomes quite expensive and quite competitive. And we've audited, a good amount of MSP and tech businesses accounts over the years from Google Ads perspective. And this is typically what we see. We've come to call it MSP bingo. Now, MSP bingo is an interesting one, because when we see companies bidding on terms, they typically bid on all of these plus 50 odd more. Plus, I selected a handful today. And while these are things that you do, and while these are things that are very much in the wheelhouse of what managed service providers do in a lot of cases, you shouldn't be spreading yourself this thin and going after all of them, because not all of them are created equal from gaining new customers. People think we need to bid on all these terms to make sure we can get every single customer we possibly can. The chances are, and reality is, we've seen behind the CRM systems, very few of these terms convert into proper, good customers. So what you need to do is narrow down this term list, and you need to find something, or find your stepping stone offer or offers. So your stepping stone offer is quite simply the product or service that someone is most likely that they're going to be working with you from a first touch point. So what's the first product or service they're going to be wanting to work with you on, or most historically proven? And you kind of have two moats with it. With tech businesses or IT service businesses, you have location based, so you can primarily compete against other local MSPs, or you're competing against other vertical based MSPs. So you're either working against other people who serve accountants, for example, or you're working with other people in your local area. It just seems to be the dynamic that it's landed. Even though I can manage someone's IT from miles away, it just seems to be that someone likes IT service providers that are local. So before I get into examples of what we found that stepping stone offers are, I want to get into examples of what they definitely are not. And obviously, most MSPs provide things like Microsoft 365, business internet, antivirus. These are core offerings of things they offer. But the problem is, when you start trying to compete in search for these terms, you are competing against some of you're changing industry, right? You're changing lane. You're not competing against other IT service companies. You're competing against the best funded, the richest, the ones with the biggest resource, self-service companies on the internet, like Microsoft, like BT, for example, McAfee, whatever it is. People are going to come across these terms, and to even get visibility on these terms, you're going to be spending a lot of money. And the second thing is that the intent's not going to be there, because most people looking for these terms aren't going to be looking for an IT service provider to do it for them. So bidding on these terms a lot of times is going to be throwing budget out the window. On the other hand, you also have terms like digital transformation, public cloud, DDoS protection, which again are very ambiguous terms. When people are searching for them, they're just looking to research information. They're not looking for a provider. So there's a whole lot of terms that we see people bid on that don't have intent, they're ambiguous, or they're playing a losing battle. So where can people compete? And typically we see them compete in it's sort of like going back to like first principles thinking, they compete when people are looking for IT support. So local IT support or IT help desk, or even things like co-location. So like co-location, unless you're in France, which means living in a spare room. So we've had leads from people looking to rent out an office space or a spare bedroom. But co-location is location based. So people looking to relocate their servers in-house. We've tried bidding on things like private cloud services, but again, it's still so ambiguous. So moving to the likes of co-location has worked much better. And then for verticalized, bidding on things like hosted desktop, for example, is a term that seems to convert really, really well compared to other cloud-based computing terms or whatever it may be. So there's a few terms that work really, really well. And a lot of the time people will start getting good success with these terms, which seem the most obvious, and try and move into other areas and really increase their budget or spread themselves too thin across all of them from the start. But what we recommend is trying to maximize your impression share from these terms, which are proven to convert. This is a good sort of like basis, but I recommend going into your CRM, seeing these, and then seeing how much you'd have to spend to max out in your area or in your verticalized space, how much you'd have to spend to be able to make sure you got the most return. And then rather than trying to spend more on Google Ads because it's working well, and you're getting diminished returns, allocate your spend elsewhere. And that's what we'll get into the generating demand later on. And this is a kind of good example to illustrate this would be when we were looking for an IT service provider for our company. We know we're only sort of like 15 people, but when we were looking for IT service provider, when we moved offices, in the past, I'd look for things like people to help with cybersecurity, antivirus, and everything else as we were growing, but didn't really find us a provider because it was all just absolutely spammed with like all the large companies looking to get me onto their software. Whereas when I actually typed in, IT service provider, a local company came up, the first one that reached out to me or replied to my inquiry, I got on the phone with, and they also then cross-sold me all the stuff that I wasn't aware of. So I knew I had a problem, which was the product and the solution aware. So in this case, I knew exactly what I wanted, unlike the other terms, which I spoke about. And then whilst I was on that call, I was then cross-sold everything else in that ecosystem. And those things in the ecosystem aren't the stepping stone offer terms, but they're really, really good cross-sell terms. So make sure you go and look at your CRM, work out what your stepping stone offer terms are, and then focus from a search engine perspective on those terms and go like an inch deep, an inch wide and a mile deep on those terms. The other mistakes we see from a Google Ads perspective are keyword selection, obviously stepping stone offer first, but account structure, bidding strategies, things like tracking your offline conversion value to know exactly how much keywords and everything is worth for you guys, as well as other variables and things. I won't go too much onto this, and I'll link off to my YouTube channel at the end where we have nearly 100 odd videos around the likes of Google Ads and LinkedIn Ads around the mistakes that are made in this sort of stuff. So I'll ping that to you guys so you can go and explore further in that. But I haven't got time to go through all my qualms with Google account setups right now. The thing I do want to touch on from a Google Ads perspective before we move on is landing pages. And a lot of people will just send traffic straight to a website page, and the website pages are fine. They're usually pretty good, but they have lots of purposes. They have the purpose of email, direct traffic, referral traffic. They're just kind of like gateways to get you further into the site versus trying to get someone to, convert. And when you're driving Google Ads and paid search traffic for like Bing Ads, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, whatever it may be, you want to make sure that you are giving the information they need for someone that has intent, not just someone who's like a general browser on your website. So it's very, very different from a buyer journey perspective. And what we've got here is a landing page. Over the years, our team has been playing around and tinkering with landing page structure, how it should be formatted, the flow of it and everything else. And we've worked out a landing page which 9 times out of 10 performs better than website pages for pretty much the majority of B2B businesses. So, and I want to give that template away to you guys today. So I'll show you a link at the end where you can go and download this. But ultimately, we have this template. You can go in there, put your own images, own assets, own typography, own services and everything else. And we'll go through the process quickly. But before we get into the landing page, setting yourself up for success, like I said, the moats are vertical and location. So for example, if someone's in Kingston and they type in IT services near me, make sure you have a dynamic location. Make sure you have a dynamic location based query there, which will automatically pull through with their IP addresses or what they're searching for. That will then pull through into the ad copy. You can also do the same with what they're typing for from a vertical or a business type perspective as well. So for a good example would be someone types in IT services near me. They're in Kingston. It comes up with Kingston IT services. And then you can automatically use a dynamic variable on this landing page template I'll send you to automatically change that from just being generalized IT services if you've got many locations, or you can really go quite specific to the area that you're going after. You can also do the same with the likes of business. Someone typed in business IT services near me or charity help desk near me. You can literally mirror the location and the qualifier of the search term they're looking to go after all within this template, which is super, super important. Now, as a landing page as a whole, you kind of have three main areas to it. It's kind of like a game of chess. You have the opener, you have the middle game, and you have the end game. It's a pretty nerdy way of thinking about it, but I quite like it. So the opening game is very much the hero section or above the fold, so what someone sees first. And what we recommend is there being some form of, you want to host your, the target audience, so who you're reference the target audience of who you work with best. What is your benefit with working for you guys? What are your capabilities? What are your specialist capabilities? And what are your features? As well as then obviously the dynamic header. And then all your social proof. So a variation or all five of those different elements. You can also do some cool things with the form, being like, fill out a form and we'll get in contact with you in 15 minutes. Really good if you're obviously trying to use your service and your customer service as a differentiator. So get in contact really quickly is super, super handy. You then go to the mid game, and this is the section that most people seem to have the hardest time with. And it's the kind of bit where people just jump straight into that. This is what we do. This is our services, and just sort of chuck it at them. We've kind of found over the years that to get a good flow and to get a good sort of consumption rate, we want to first kind of tell it like a story and be like, after the social proof, these are your biggest pains. So go on to symptom 1, symptom 2, symptom 3. So symptom 1 could be like, are you bored of setting up everyone's work laptop for when you have a new joiner? Or are you bored of being the person everyone goes to when their webcam or internet stops working? Someone opens something dodgy and you're scared, that your data is at risk. Are you filling out RFPs for big client projects, but you don't know how to explain your firewall setup? So what are the three things that you mainly see an issue with? You can go into your help desk and try and find where the most tickets have been raised, and they'll probably get a very good idea of what they are. You then have a pillar testimonial, which is contextual. So a biggest one in your area, company, or biggest one in your vertical. So it's a case study you're really proud of. And then we have the benefits, and each benefit will alleviate one of the symptoms. So benefit 1 will alleviate symptom 1, benefit 2 alleviate symptom 2, and just a really nice flow and structure. And then we move on to the finisher, and the finisher is the third section of the landing page, which is where you can host something like a video. Again, you can use this, a next step section, so the Uber of what happens after someone fills out a form. It's really good to sort of know what's happening there. And then you have the frequently asked questions, which kind of act as for two reasons. You have objection handling to make sure that someone, if they have any questions, can get them answered there so they can get in contact, or you can use it as heat map analysis tools and tactics to be able to dig into what people may want to know more about and then maybe move that into your landing page. So as a quick recap, narrow down your core stepping stone keywords and max out impression share. You want to reduce the friction of both your search to ad journey as well as your ad to landing page journey. And you need to make sure you host all the information in that template format so they will have all the information they need to convert on that one page. Sorry, that was a lot of information in a very short period of time. Hope that all made sense, but we are now going to be moving on to paid social or creating demand. And creating demand is different for MSPs because, like I said, we're not creating emotion through aspiration. We need to try and create emotion somehow. And there's been studies that show that emotion is literally the only thing that gets people to buy. Without emotion, with someone, for example, with brain damage, there was a study that showed that he was incapable of making good decisions because that part of his brain had been deactivated that had emotion. So he'd always make decisions that he'd rather do versus the one that he should do, which obviously from an IT service perspective is exactly the same, right? So there's something called, I want to lead on to something called the fresh start effect. And this is a paper that I came across that was pretty much, I'm not going to go too much into it because I said no theory today, but it's pretty much shows that when people have big work-life events, they're much more likely to make bigger decisions. And it's kind of focus on the big picture, less on the day-to-day, and lessons there their risk or increases their risk appetite to be able to get that done. So while you may not be able to create emotion like you would do with like an aspirational product, like buying a new laptop or going out for a company lunch or something, you can do it through events, which works really well for tech companies and everything else. And you can do that for things like new job, office moves, growth of company, funding rounds, and intent. So let's go and show you how actively we can do that. So if someone is changing job, obviously they've got a pretty good propensity to want to be able to stamp their name onto it. So they're more likely to be able to make a change. So for example, very good from a performance marketing perspective to target people specifically. So have the always on campaigns of the general campaign audience, but as soon as someone's changed job, very good to target them. A campaign you should carve out are ones that have recently relocated or looking to relocate, because these people in tech are the ones probably are the ones that, bar very few, actually will need new IT support setups, whether it's like new internet, whether it's, new complete provider, whatever it may be. So really good just to sort of single those guys out, because this is literally the grudge purchase point in time where emotion doesn't even really come into it. It's like, oh, we need this right now. And that is the emotion, is like desperation of like, we just need to get this sorted. So getting in front of those people is just super, super handy. And it's why boring businesses and grudge purchase businesses are so good, because people don't want to change. So the lifetime value is super, super high. And once you can get in front of them at these points, which are super pivotal, you can keep them for a very, very good lifetime value. Next one would be around audience size. So we've seen time and time again that companies that are growing at 20+%, which we can create an audience on LinkedIn and see the breakdown of conversion audiences, which would be people that are growing at 20%. In this case, it's like 7% of the audience was growing this fast, but the ones in the 7% audience are much more likely to actually fill out a form. And you can actually go and target them specifically within your marketing as well. Same with funding rounds, and you can go and use many different types of websites to pull this information out. But one of the ones we like is something called Crunchbase. I think it's like £500 for the year, £250 for the year, something like that, where you can go and actually see companies that are funding rounds and a whole host of other different business information. And you can download up to about 5,000 companies per month that you can look to target, which is going to be absolutely plenty. In most cases, you can upload these as an ABM list and target these companies, and obviously change the messaging, which is going to be around funding. Now, the thing about funding is we get a lot of people inquiring once they've got funding with us, because they need to change their marketing plan and create a marketing plan and like a roadmap. Same is going to be true with the IT roadmap. If they're going to double year on year, every year, they're going to have to work out where their servers are. They need to work out how the onboarding process, need to work out so many things. And a lot of times people with, dry throat, a lot of times people that have like seed funding rounds are going to need a very different type of provider for when they go to like Series A, for example. And the final one from an emotion-based standpoint would be intent. Now, intent is obviously super important, and we're sending a lot of people from Google Ads to our website. So what we need to do is make sure that from a LinkedIn remarketing perspective, meta marketing perspective, Reddit marketing perspective even, that we've pixeled the browse of anyone that we're able to on these sites, and make sure within that month after them coming to the site, we're really kind of going quite heavy on the messaging, direct response messaging, because they obviously have some sort of organization intent. We can even go broader on LinkedIn and say these are the companies that the people are part of. Why don't we target them from a broader perspective? So there's no point in leaving that money on the table. And this even goes when people are looking for competitors of yours and they're not happy. So, IT service provider goes out of business, or they've got like a bad rep, or someone's looking for an alternative. You can kind of capture that as well. So now we have a rough idea of the targeting and who we're targeting. What about the messaging? And there's so much interesting stuff you can do with messaging. Over the years, we've proposed all sorts of ideas which have been shot down. One of the ones I'd love to see run would be to go on like the, when people like email addresses get compromised, and like they can be like listed, and it's like these companies here's their email addresses, here are their passwords, and they're sort of like available on the web. It'd be good if like companies, you could literally get those from a company and like create an ad and be like, I know your password is this, and target it to like the CEO or IT manager. I'm pretty sure that would create some emotion. But again, it's, when you can go and see that your password's been breached, and like your Apple security and stuff, there's so many companies that have that data out there. We actually went to go see some of them, and but that was turned down because I think that creates a bit too much emotion. If anyone does run that sort of stuff, it'd be great to hear about that actually. But from a messaging standpoint, what we typically want to do in status quo based businesses or grudge purchase businesses is maintain, just reduce the risk appetite. People would rather have much less features, but then much less likely of something going wrong, which is the safety heuristic that people just don't want things to go wrong. It's like they're never getting fired for hiring IBM. So like the staple is always testimonials, case studies, as many as you can have. The more you have, the more people feel like they haven't got to think for themselves. Everyone else has done the thinking for them. There's like safety in numbers, and the more tangible, real people videos you can do, the better. A lot of the time we do like Google Hangouts, where you can record your customers and help them through it if they need support. The next one, which is a big one, which can really be coupled quite nicely with the targeting, is thought leadership ads. So about a year ago, LinkedIn allowed something called thought leadership ads, which is where you can promote through your personal page using your company budget, which allows people to actually promote real world people's accounts versus just your faceless company page. So if you want to inspire that it's not just a random company, but there's actually faces, you can trust them, sort of having that person-to-person connections. Not only does it get more engagement, but it's trusted a lot more of the time, especially with these types of purchases. And if you want ideas of what you can run, so a good example here is one of our ads. People are always saying like LinkedIn ads are expensive, for example. I go on here and go like LinkedIn ads are cheap and go down like break down quality score, how you can get cheaper clicks, how actually it's a really good like investment, yada yada, and sort of then promote that to my audience through my personal account to the types of audiences which we went through earlier. And then I'm not going to get too much onto our personal branding, because I know I think there's a big talk tomorrow morning on personal branding, and sort of like the branding side. This is very much more focused on the performance side, is creating videos and videos which you host, for example, on YouTube. You can also host on your website through YouTube. Not only good for acquiring business, but very good for winning business if you're one of the deciding companies, because if someone has all these questions and you're like, I'll just send you across a few videos, that works really, really nicely. Or if they're deciding between two of you and you've got like a moat of 100 videos, they can probably go and look at your expertise. But also for retention, it works really nice as well, because you're kind of keeping people up to date with the latest industry trends, industry updates, like just thought leadership pieces, what you agree with, what you don't, all that sort of stuff. So it works in so many different levels, and you create these doors and open these doors, relationships you didn't know existed, and you can kind of repurpose this content here, there, and everywhere. And sometimes I just literally just do performance marketing ads straight to YouTube and just let them sort of simmer and go through 100 odd pages, and it kind of creates that bigger moat for you to focus on. So if I was going to go and implement, which we do, a IT service or MSP marketing plan tomorrow, what would that look like? And it would look very much like this. I go straight in and I'd be like, okay, I want to find out, using our CRM data, these are our stepping stone keywords. I'm going to bid on these terms. I want to max out the impression share. And I want to use a very tight landing page like the template that we went through. I'm then going to look at the throughput of that and look at see whether it's worth ranking organically as well. We haven't gone too much into it. We haven't gone at all into SEO today because it's a whole separate subject. And by SEO, I'm also talking about like learning LLMs as well. Like the likes of ChatGPT, because they're becoming more prominent. But search is a bit more holistic from an SEO perspective right now, because we can't bid on paid search we can't bid on any programmatic for the LLMs right now. And then I'd move on to the demand gen, so the consumption. So I create a post a month, a week, a few times a week, depending on capacity and appetite and objectives. And then promote that to the audiences which I built, all the ones that have done well, and then the ones that have really resonated, turn those into YouTube scripts because you've already written them for LinkedIn, and then create that, and then use the YouTube video to re-upload back to LinkedIn to then be able to use it as well. So there's no right or wrong way to do this, but there's just a way to get so much out of your marketing without doing loads and loads of work. I mean, I've been a single marketing person for our company of sales and marketing without having to do too much more, just based off, posting sometimes on LinkedIn, using that LinkedIn then to write my YouTube videos and then promoting them and cross-pollinating and making it work really, really well. So paid social recap, you want to make sure you use event-based triggers before performance marketing versus trying to create emotion out of thin air. You want to use social proof and personal accounts to reduce risk, like thought leadership ads, and then create a content flywheel, which allows you to test, iterate, and amplify. If you want to find out more about us or me or get these templates, you can look at our agency website here, which is session-media.com. You can download the assets like the landing page, but also like the LinkedIn ads playbook, PPC budget pacer, B2B roadmap. At that URL, you can add me on LinkedIn here, or you can go and follow me at YouTube at youtube.com/Ben@B2B. But I hope you found that useful today, guys, and would love to have a conversation if you want to talk about marketing your MSP agency or IT service company further using this process, or if you want to speak about SEO as well, feel free to get in contact. But yeah, have a great week, guys, and speak to you very soon.